presented here for your consideration the notion that the ordinary people surrounding you every day, on the street, the bus, at the post office, or the trendy evening venue, are, in fact, far from ordinary. That these men, women, and others form their own splinter groups behind closed doors, and that these micro-societies engage in activities often more obscure than fiction. Welcome to the Sub-Subculture.
Yes, hello and welcome to the Sub-Subculture Podcast. I am your host and the reason your bathroom tap drips at night, Andrew.
And I'm Joe, a wise, cracking, hard-boiled, substance-abusing detective.
The fuck was that?
I'm going somewhere new this time.
Okay, good. New York,
Gotta keep things fresh.
The streets of Glasgow.
That was the streets of New York, or maybe Boston.
Somewhere in between.
It certainly wasn't Scotland.
Okie dokie. So, what are we talking about this week?
Not impressed with that. Fine. Maybe he doesn't come back. What are we talking about this week? This week we are talking about the red pill and the manosphere.
The red pill and the manosphere. Okay. So the question is this a search for lost men's rights, or is it purely toxic masculinity? Maybe worth saying up top that the reason this is kind of pushed into the forefront and shapes a chunk of this discussion comes from the Louis Theroux Netflix documentary, which has come out recently in the last week or two. And this we were going to do anyway. We talked about it when we did our FDS episode, but this has really bumped it up the to-do list. It gives it some sense of urgency, like this is happening now.
And if you want to listen to the FDS episode, which is Female Dating Strategy, that is episode number 5.
Good callback. Good knowing the numbers to hand. So red pill.
Oh, yeah.
Red-ish pill. Do you want to have a definition or do you want a preconception before we get into this?
Let's do a preconception. I'll go first. I've got a story I'd like to share.
Okay. Please tell me all about your preconceptions of the red pill, young Joseph.
So when I was in my mid-20s about 10 years ago, I had been introduced to politics for the first time and for feminism and to the whole question of equality, and I felt pretty on the side of women in this lot. And a guy who was hired at work who was openly a men's rights supporter, and through that lens I looked at him and I thought, this is ridiculous. What a misogynist asshole this guy must be. And a little while later I dated someone who I considered pretty left-leaning and right-thinking. So correct thinking, not right-wing thinking. And she told me that she dated the same guy. And I lost so much respect for her. I was like, really? That guy? Men's rights Ryan. You dated men's rights Ryan. Are you out of your fucking mind? And I guess my viewpoint at the time was quite reactionary and quite black and white. And I just thought this guy was just a huge piece of shit. Without really taking much time to understand the nuance of it, but I felt righteous and that was the important thing. And over time, my opinion has changed a little bit from that original viewpoint, but that's pretty much all I knew about the red pill and the manosphere back in day.
Okay.
What about you?
So just trying to tie that grandfather-esque story back to the topic. So
It's human and relatable. Our listeners love it.
Is it though?
Do they?
So this guy was all about like men's rights. Where did that cross over into red pill for you? Like, how did you equate those two things together? When did you know that one thing was the other?
I thought they were basically synonymous.
Okay.
They are the same thing. And to be honest, I didn't really know any nuance about it. I knew its name and I knew that I hated it.
Okay. See, I didn't have that much to go on because I think maybe I'd heard of it after you mentioned it on the topics list and said, look this up.
When I lifted up your rock briefly and threw something on you.
Yeah. And he threw it through the opening of my cave.
Andrew, read this.
I said, stop gnawing on that bone. I think just a cursory glance at it when we went through FDS, I kind of equated it to incels, which I had heard of. And it's not necessarily the same thing, but I think you could Venn diagram them pretty closely. Mm-hmm. And I'd only really heard of it in that context of, FDS is the opposite of this. Like, I thought maybe it's extreme men's rights, this kind of a sense of entitlement from women that goes beyond a longing for traditional gender values and is more like, bitch, do as I say. And I got the impression that Andrew Tate was like the face of this from all that was happening around him in the media.
The scrubby little chinless face of this.
He's got such a strange voice as well. How did anyone think this was the guy to follow?
Yeah, he has a weird accent.
Anyway, that's what I knew about it. Seems like very little.
Mm-hmm. Very little, and you were happier then.
I've never been happy. As the popular meme goes.
You can still have been happier. This is the worst day of your life so far.
Good. Okay. So that's what we thought we knew about it, but definition? Get into proper definition?
Before we define it, basically the manosphere, red pill, and incels are related things, but they're slightly different. The manosphere is the kind of environment that all of this male-related stuff takes place in. It describes anything that has a primarily male interest at the head of it. And underneath that, red pill is an ideology or a philosophy. And underneath that, incels are a group of people who might believe in a red pill worldview, but they don't have to.
I think that what I came across said that the manosphere is a varied collection of websites, blogs, forums, and influencers, which may include men's rights, pickup artistry, incels, male supremacists, and red pill content creators and believers, but basically those who believe that society is biased against men.
Yeah, that sounds fair. That sounds like a good definition.
A BBC article said that they promote traditional masculinity and that many sell courses claiming to teach subscribers how to emulate them. And esafety.gov.au said it reinforces stereotypes that material wealth, physical appearance, and dominance, often over women, are markers of male worth. That kind of stuff is the manosphere. Like the collective works, let's say.
The collected works of the manosphere, volumes 1 through 9.
Whereas red pill, generally, before we get into the red pill ideology, but generally the idea of the red pill is a Matrix reference from the 1999 motion picture film, The Matrix, in which the protagonist is offered a choice between a red pill and a blue pill, and it refers to a process by which a person's perspective is dramatically transformed, introducing them to a new and typically disturbing understanding of the true nature of a particular situation, i.e., in the film The Matrix, the red pill is when he learns how deep the rabbit hole goes.
It's seeing the uncomfortable truth and passing up the comfortable illusion.
Although you probably know this already as a massive Arnie fan, that the reference to red pill actually goes back to original Total Recall with Arnie.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so the red pill was something that he would take that symbolized his desire to return to reality.
You set me up! It's bullshit! All of it!
All roads lead back to Arnie.
Give these people air! Cohagen! God, I love that film. God, I love that man. What are we talking about?
This is going to be an hour and a half of Arnie impressions.
Like, you thought you were going to learn something. No. So, what is this truth that they claim to see, having taken the red pill? And what is the blue pill is what they refer to the conventional wisdom, the conventional view of the world, what people are taught by society and mainstream media.
My understanding, or actually red pill men's understanding, is that hetero romantic relationships usually benefit women who use men for financial purposes and gain. They define real men as hetero, dominant, and attached to traditional gender roles like a hegemonic masculinity, and place men above women on the scale of things, or want a return to men being on the top of things. And they promote masculinity, misogyny, and the opposition of feminism. No?
I would say it's something slightly different from that, because I think that describes it. But I think the core truth, if you were to sum it up in one sentence, the red pill truth is that the virtues you are told will be rewarded by society and by women in particular, and other men, I suppose, are inaccurate. And actually, it's a different set of virtues that you should embody if you wish to be successful. And women in particular have a much darker nature than the world would have you believe, I think, is how I would characterize my view of the truth that the red pill at the core of it.
Well, I guess this is part of the thing that's hard to pin down and works in the favor of those that are peddling red pill content or truths, quote unquote, is that it can kind of be a vast and gross slurry of things, and you can pit your little flag somewhere in the middle or somewhere to one of the extreme ends of what would be red pill for your own gains out of it, because someone is benefiting from this. But generally they see that, I think the truth of what they're trying to wake people up to is that the world is gynocentric. That's a word I came across them using.
Meaning revolving around women.
Yes, those with vaginas.
And they don't like it.
No, they think that men are told that they should be, respectful of women and treat them in a certain way, put them on a pedestal or something like this, when actually the truth is that women are controlling them and running the show, and that men are not on top. As modern feminism suggests, it's like the common false narrative is that feminism and gender equality have come at the expense of male rights. They kind of point to the second wave of feminism as when men stopped being allowed to be men.
Well, you weren't allowed to touch up your secretary anymore.
Yeah, well, exactly. She liked it. Birds like that.
Let me very quickly find out what the waves of feminism actually are. The history of feminism is generally categorized into 4 waves, each building on the achievements and addressing the shortcomings of the last. First wave, late 19th century to early 20th century, so early 1900s, focused primarily on legal rights, particularly women's suffrage and the right to vote. It was largely led by white middle-class women in the West and culminated in landmark legislation like the 19th Amendment in the US. Second wave in the 60s to 80s shifted the focus to social and cultural inequalities, including reproductive rights, workplace discrimination, and domestic violence. Does anyone think that was good to protect those things? This era popularized the idea that the personal is political, aiming to dismantle systemic patriarchal structures beyond just legal voting rights. Does that sound any of that directly opposed to male interests?
The second wave feminism and the red pill guys suggesting that women were just claiming they didn't have equal rights, and that's when it changed. That's the sort of what was being suggested in some of the stuff that I read.
It is interesting because society, I think, is more equal now in some ways and less equal in others. Back then, say in the 50s, men were the primary breadwinners. I think it was still unusual for women to have jobs, and they were more at the mercy of a man or at the mercy of their husband financially and legally and physically, I suppose. I suppose you might say that's not changed. But on the other side, men were conscripted more frequently and were more likely to die in a mine or something like that. So it wasn't all peaches and cream for men either.
So this documentary that Charisma Vacuum Louis Theroux has put out.
I like him. I like his style. I like his lack of style.
I think I might be one of the few people on the planet that don't like him from the sounds of things. Like, no one, apart from the idiots in this documentary, the first things that show up on there are social media clips, Facebook and Twitter feeds of people responding to the subjects of his documentary saying, he's going to make a hate piece on you. It's going to be this cuck is going to do a hit piece. All that kind of stuff. Because they must have seen, some of the previous things or the style that he does things in. But I just find him inherently annoying. But let's not get into that. The first thing you see when he's introducing his topics are like these kind of bragging, brash, muscled up influencer type men who claim to be making loads of money, having millions of followers. And one of the first quotes from one of the guys that he interviews in depth, I think, he says that he coaches boys how to be boys, how to make money, how to be outside of the system and not be soy boy gimps walking around. Soy boy gimps.
It's good. It's a good insult.
What's wrong with soy?
I really like soy boy. It makes me laugh every time.
Some people pay good money for gimps as well. Like I'm lost how it's an insult.
Apparently, I think being vegetarian is part of the problem, as they say it, eating soy. I don't know. Soy boy makes me laugh.
Anyway, these guys, I don't know how much they're representative of a red pill mindset, because what really came through for me was that all of them be scamming. All they're really doing is trying to get follower accounts. They're embracing controversial views and topics and just trying to get angry, confused young boys to follow them online. It's like
to click on their affiliate links.
Reverse pedophilia? I don't know, just pedophilia. Get young boys to click on your links. Yeah, exactly. Or their affiliate links. They're go and check out these OnlyFans girls I'm subscribing to. Come and join my finance advice course. Come and join Hustler University from Andrew Tate and his brother. Like, it's all about subscription services.
Mm-hmm. Here's some crypto investment advice. Buy this cryptocurrency that I'm promoting.
Exactly.
that I've produced. Buy this energy drink for some fucking reason.
Get them all riled up, give them something to hate, and channel their anger into something, and then take all their money.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they believe what they're saying. I think they just say they found a niche, like mukbang. They don't really believe any of it. They've just found a niche which they've kind of explored the space and have realized the more extreme stuff they say, the more engagement they get, and ultimately the more money in their bank account. That's what they care about. They don't care about the ideology, really. They don't care about the values. They certainly don't care about living by the values that they promote, because a lot of the time it seems like these guys have actually fairly normal relationships with their girlfriends. They certainly don't rule their girlfriends with an iron fist like they'd have you believe. And I think there's maybe a bit of an understanding that, look, I just say stuff for content, and I'm not saying they're nice guys. They're obviously pieces of shit, but I don't think they really live the message that they are telling everyone that they do, because ultimately they're just saying stuff to get views and clicks and pretending they live that lifestyle.
Well, yeah, pretending to live a lifestyle is one thing, but it's, as I said, it's kind of a big trough, and some of them will be like fully living that. Some of the ones that are like in the 1% of the top tier red pill go-to guys for examples of this thing. Like the one that's on Fresh and Fit, I can't even remember what his name is.
Myron Gaines.
Nor do I want to give him the credit, but you've done it anyway.
Shitbag, my shitbag.
He is a fucking bellend. But he just gets women onto his podcast and berates them and calls them ugly and stuff.
He deliberately selects bimbos, women that are happy to go on the show to get a tiny bit of clout, usually because they've got their own little social media or big social media interest. It's often an OnlyFans account, but it could just be an Instagram page or something like that. So they go on to get some attention, and they deliberately pick ones which are not very bright and then just insult them or try and catch them out with stuff or just make them look stupid, basically. And it's just an endless content reel.
Yep. But yeah, as I say, there's different flavors of it within there. And there are people that are just complete and utter trolls and bellends, and they do treat women like that. You know, the guy from Louisiana that was quite well-spoken, that was in there, who did have a wife and 3 kids. No, he had a partner and 3 kids, but still went out having sex with other women, and he was like, I can get any woman I want, and she knows about it. I'm immediately going to ask for the threesome and bring her home to have sex with my wife. I was like, this is...
And he was probably the most likable and least reprehensible of the men on that show. So I want to point something out here. That guy, let's take him at face value. He says he's worth 30 million. And if his wife is fully aware of the contract that he's proposing, you stay at home, you have access to this house and this money, you raise the kids, but I also fuck other people and bring them back. Do you accept those terms? And if she says, yes, I accept those terms, then fine, it's something happening between 2 consenting, informed adults, and some women are happy to have that arrangement, I guess, or it's the best arrangement available. I don't think it's inherently wrong if people want to live like that.
But that's not a relationship that everyone can have, should have, and wants to be in, because that's the lifestyle they're selling, no?
Yes, that's a key point. So people like him, who's worth 30 million, I can't remember what his name is, Andrew Tate, who's now internationally famous for mostly the wrong reasons, and also a multimillionaire. Most of these guys at the top of the red pill structure are quite well off through one reason or another, and different rules apply to those guys. So if they're renowned pieces of shit who happen to be wealthy and famous, and they're like, oh yeah, women only want money, they're not interested in your personality or charm, they just want money and fame. See, look at this bimbo that I've been shagging this week, and I can go shag another one, I can replace her. It's like, yeah, that's probably actually true, because you self-select for that kind of woman. That kind of woman that is willing to give him the time of day, knows he's rich, knows he's famous, knows he's probably a twat, and has decided, yeah, okay, I accept these terms of this agreement. And any more normal women that would look at him and be like, ugh, no, I don't care how rich he is, he's vile, and leave him alone. You just never see those women. So some of these seemingly awful ideas, actually just awful ideas that they promote, they actually do kind of work in very specific environments. They're not necessarily wrong because they don't work. But little Timmy dipshit who's 15 and watching this on his phone at school with his mates, and he's learning these lessons about, treat women mean, they're replaceable, women only want money and fame. You gotta do this to have a relationship. That's not going to work for Timmy because he's not going to be a multimillionaire. He's going to be a normal guy, and these rules aren't going to work for him.
This is where it's dangerous, because that's exactly what they're telling men, that you should behave like this to women. All of you should, because society's holding you back or something. There were some good quotes that came across from that guy in particular, the guy from Louisiana on that documentary. He said it's a one-sided monogamy that he's in, i.e. it's monogamous from his wife's, not his wife's, they're not even married, but his partner's side, but not from his. And what you're saying is that if she accepts those terms, that's up to her. But he also was saying, like, women want a guy that can lead them and dominate them. And then they use this culty technique of just kind of gaslighting you or telling the followers this is a fact. That's a fact. You make an absurd statement like that and say, that is a fact. That's what women want. And if you say it enough times, people hear, oh yeah, that must be true because he said it really loud.
Is it scientifically backed? They're pretty distrustful of science in general.
Well, no, the part of it was, this is from a YouTuber called Art Chad, who reckons that red pill content actually relies heavily on stats and statistics and waving those around, because that's just finding the data that backs up your arguments, right?
It gives them an air of legitimacy because they like to...
Confirmation bias, yeah.
They like to claim to be the rational gender. But here's an example of how fucking stupid it is. So one statistic they love throwing around is 86% of lesbian marriages end in divorce. 12% of gay marriages do, or 40% of heterosexual marriages do. And they use this as evidence that women are the problem. Women can't tolerate other women so badly that almost all lesbian marriages end in divorce. But now I can't decide whether someone was just incompetent or whether someone was malicious. It could be either. The actual statistic that has been taken from, I found it originally because I did this research myself, was at one point 86% of same-sex divorces were lesbians, which makes no statement about how many lesbian marriages were divorces. Just of the divorces that were being processed at the time, the majority were lesbian ones, which is totally different.
Of the same-sex divorces that were being...
same-sex divorces, yes.
So it's skewing the numbers and just using them completely differently.
Completely differently, and they tout this like a fact. It's seeped into the popular consciousness. In fact, it's so pervasive that I actually said this in a comment on an Instagram thing. I was like, well, it can't be all peaches and cream for lesbians because it's got this...
Can't be all peaches smashing with other peaches.
Yeah, some people did make that joke. Actually, mate, it is peaches and cream. And someone called me out. I was like, yeah, where's that from? I was like, well, I'll find the bloody data myself and do it, because it occurred to me, I'm just repeating something I've heard here. And I couldn't find the data from a reliable source. So I went to the Office of National Statistics UK, downloaded the marriage data, did the analysis myself. And the conclusion was...
All to win a fucking Instagram argument. How much time do you have on your hands?
No, this wasn't to win an Instagram argument. This was to be honest with myself about the things I say and believe. And I did it, and 40% of heterosexual marriages in the UK end in divorce. And at the time, it was 12% of gay marriages, gay men, ended in divorce, and 14% of female lesbian marriages ended in divorce, with the caveat that gay marriage had only been around, I think, 7 or 8 years at that time. And obviously, marriages can last longer than that. So there'll probably still be some divorces coming. But generally, actually, homosexual relationships seem to have much better selection and longevity in marriage than hetero ones do. And it completely destroys that red pill talking point.
Hasn't it long been held that the popular analogy or the popular stat that is in people's minds, it was half, and it's now like 2/3 of marriages end in divorce anyway? But I'm presuming that's from the US, or it's just another one of these things that people have mentioned from somewhere.
Let me check.
But the ones that this guy was mentioning, so again, YouTuber Art Chad, hats off to you, Art Chad, I'm quoting you. He said that these red pill content that does rely heavily on stats, they like to play up things like men are more likely than women to be homeless. It's like 75% of homeless people are men, some stat like that. Men statistically serve longer prison sentences. Men are more likely to be convicted when tried of crimes. Men have a higher suicide rate. Men are more likely to be victims of violent crime than women.
At the hands of other men, but yes.
Yeah, all of it they like to, put out there as, look, life's actually harder for men, then we're being told, it's dangerous for women to walk home at night. Bitch, look at all this.
There is some truth to it, though. Something else that can go on that list is the number of male university attendance is falling. There are more female graduates than male ones. Women do better at school than men do, and that gap is widening.
How is that women's fault, though?
Well, that's a question, because the red pill blames women centrally for everything that is wrong. So that's a separate issue. The only point I'm making with this is that I disagree when people say men have it easy, the patriarchy has created a world for men. But there are very real problems facing men. I'm not saying whose fault that is, but it's certainly not a gravy train. It's not a free ride. There's problems which are uniquely male problems, which women don't face. So I would only use it to reject the narrative that life as a man is incredibly privileged.
It's pretty sweet to be able to pee standing up, though.
That is. They hate it. Women hate this one simple trick.
Good. This guy's video, I quite liked. I've taken a few things from it. He literally titled it, Gen Z men will be destroyed by the red pill. Good clickbaity title.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's angry. Made me watch it. So his point to start with, he came across as very articulate and intelligent, especially given he's probably Gen Z himself. Fuck you. He said that Gen Z are largely entitled and think that they deserve something just for existing without having to put any effort in. And this is part of the red pill pushback on how this generation are all about, like, accepting your body. Fat acceptance is fine. Doesn't matter what shape you are. You're not encouraged to look after yourself physically. There's this obsession with trauma and everyone wants to talk about their feelings and take a mental health day. Or they constantly obsess over identity. Oh, I'm gay, I'm straight, I'm not this, I'm not that. I self-identify like this. They're pointing to all of these things as being this weakening of society. Again, this is how the red pill views things. Some of it you can take, some of it you can leave. And this is an antithesis to this. He's saying that's the red pill mentality, that they push back on this by accepting the harshest worldview possible and seeing that everything in life is actually adversarial, inadequate, and it's the coldest, harshest person that comes out on top. What do you reckon of that view of red pill?
I think there's some truth to it. I think that's an accurate assessment of some of the red pill views. And I think some of those red pill views, there is a truth to it. In fact, I've got a list here of things which red pill gets right, in my opinion.
Oh God. I thought we'd deprogrammed you.
Never.
You're a mole, but for which side?
Okay, so let's look at some of the good parts of this, in my opinion. You can tell me whether they're good or not. Women are naturally weaker than men, and we should accept this.
All right.
I was hoping to get a reaction from you. That's not really what it says.
Sorry.
I should have been more misogynistic. Anyway, number 1, personal responsibility. So the best version of this says, your outcomes with women are largely a function of what you bring to the table. And that pushes men to improve their fitness, improve their careers, develop social skills, and stop blaming external factors. Now we go to Andrew for comment.
Sorry, which side is that supposed to be on? Because that doesn't sound like a red pill view to me.
That's a red pill belief.
I don't think it is.
It's a core tenet. It is personal responsibility.
No, they blame women for it.
What do they blame women for? Your failure in life?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
They're literally saying that the structure of society gears towards women and against you. Therefore, it's not your fault you're failing to be successful in a relationship.
I think they can also believe conflicting things. They probably believe that, but they definitely also believe it's your problem. No one's coming to save you. If you want to improve your life, you have to do it. No one else is going to.
So this is a bit of that I teach lads how to be lads kind of thing. Stop being such a soy boy beta cuck.
Yeah, and men respond to this kind of actionable advice.
Level up yourself.
You are a piece of shit, but you don't have to be. You could get better at stuff.
Yeah, okay. This is also cult-like mentality, but the Manosphere does thrive on a mix of self-help for young men as well as tips on things like dating, fitness, and finance.
Yeah, so, the big 3. And fitness is really just a route to women anyway.
For these guys, yes.
I mean, what do you think about this?
Maybe it's all latent homosexual tendencies, they're all obsessed with the male body. Like, oh, mate, it's fucking, got to look at those glistening biceps. Oh, yeah, thigh day.
Nice abs, bro.
Yeah.
Nice cum gutters, bro.
What the fuck?
The Adonis belt.
Anyway, moving on. What else is on your list?
But hang on, I want to know your opinion.
I don't want to talk
that.
about cum gutters with you anymore. We've been through this for 2 hours beforehand.
It's my special interest. Anyway, personal responsibility. Humour me for a moment and accept that that's a cool red pill tenet. That's a good thing, right? Taking responsibility for your situation.
You keep pausing like you're waiting for me to give you validation or accept this as a worldview.
That's precisely what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm not backing
Accept
you up.
Accept that.
You're not getting me into your little red cult this way.
I'm not in a red pill cult. But surely you could admit that some parts of it might have some truth to it. You don't want to just... It's too easy to say the whole thing is rotten.
But these aren't things that you have to believe in red pill ideology to accept that, yes, people should take responsibility for improving themselves.
I'm not saying you should believe in the red pill ideology. Just this part of it happens to be right, in my opinion. No one is coming to save you. If you want to have a better life, you can't just stand around and do nothing. You've got to grab life by the balls.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay, good.
Hump it into submission.
Good dodgeball quotes.
So, number 2 that I think is good advice or a good belief is rejection of passive, just be nice advice. So mainstream messaging often says, be kind, be respectful, and things will work out, particularly with women. But in the red pill view, attraction is not a reward for moral behaviour. It's not enough to just be a nice guy. You've got to bring more to the table than that.
2 things there. 2 things rolling into one. It's not a case of you have to bring more than being a nice guy. You're saying that you need to reject a passive, just be nice attitude when it comes to dating women?
Yes.
But that's not the same thing as you shouldn't bring anything to the table other than being nice. You could be loaded and be nice.
Are you agreeing with me?
No, I'm saying that isn't one thing, it's 2 things, and they're not.
I'm conflating them.
Mutually exclusive.
Well, can they both be true? You've got to do more than being nice.
I don't think you do.
You think just be nice, that's enough to be attractive.
Worked for me.
Yeah, but you're also nice and attractive.
I'm neither of those things, actually, under the surface. Absolute.
Yeah, that is interesting, actually.
Absolute dichotomy.
Who knows? But yeah, I think that's true. And the incel part of the manosphere doesn't accept that. They're the ones which are entitled and like, I was a nice guy, and she still didn't want to have sex with me. Women are bitches.
That's quite common, right? Like, there was a guy that I'm convinced is an incel and probably building weapons of mass destruction in his own. Anyway, he was like that. One of the guys I worked with early on in my help desk career. You know, we're all kind of early 20s layabouts doing something in IT.
Full of piss and vinegar.
Yeah, entering the dating pool, successfully or unsuccessfully. Well, this guy was...
drowning at the shallow end of the dating pool.
Yeah, drowning yourself in the showers, perhaps.
Slipped and banged your head and then slid into the pool.
He was like a really geeky looking guy. He was skinny, he was spotty, he had bad hair, bad complexion, bad posture, glasses, all things within his own power to change, by the way, which he wasn't doing. Like but sitting next to him would be like the buffest guy in the office who would have taken him to the gym and had lols with him because he was actually a very nice chap.
I was probably drowning in plunge.
He obsessed over this girl in the office for like years. She started as a temp, worked there for a bit, got promoted, then left, but he kind of just followed her around. He would meet up with her every now and then outside of work. For a while she had a boyfriend, then she didn't. It took him years to talk her into going on a date with him, and I think she said yes out of, just get it over with kind of thing. He wasn't necessarily creepy. He was quite nice to her, but he was just pretty much a loser. And after going on one date, he wanted her to go back to his place and make out with him and sleep with him, and then was basically outraged that she wouldn't.
What?
Because in his mind, like, he'd been waiting 2 years for that. Like, of course that's what was going to happen.
If she didn't, she'd been leading him on.
Yeah, something like that was in his mind.
He was lucky to get the date by the sound of it. He should have been grateful for that.
He got a pity date and thought it was going to be like, that's me set for life or something. I don't know.
Wow. And then that was that. Didn't happen again.
I think when she said, no, I'm going to go now, that was, I think that maybe reality came into play there.
Interesting. I wonder what lessons he took from that.
I think he probably, if anything, it would have pushed him down the incel path, and he thinks like, oh, look what happened to me. Look what this bitch did. Then, and that's how some of them see it. Like, oh, I was a nice guy for 2 years, and what did it get me?
Nothing.
You were fucking creepy.
Nice implies certain things with it. I think you should be pleasant. That should be a baseline, and you shouldn't expect a reward for it.
Basically, you shouldn't be like these twats that are in the documentary that are walking down the street at night in, which it's not Ibiza that they are, it's some other dirty Spanish town. Anyway, they're in some place where young British people go to get semi-naked in the hot weather, and they walk down the street walking up to women and going, "Oh, lovely, you like a bit of that, you like a bit of this."
Oh yeah, they're doing game. They're running game.
Yeah, running game. It's just going and being vile at women and hoping one of them you think you're funny or cheeky or something. I don't understand that.
It's Marbella. That's the one in the documentary. So the thing here as well is Marbella has clearly become a wretched hive of scum and villainy for influencer scumbag types. And you've got to remember that whilst these shitbags are there, the women that are there must know something about this. So there's a particular kind of woman that you're more likely to find there who might be slightly more receptive to these ridiculous interviews or whatever you call it. It doesn't even look like it works. Mostly they aren't interested.
Bizarre mating displays.
Yeah. But it makes content, doesn't it?
Does it though? Oh, it's content, mate. It's content. It's clout. They kept saying these like they were buzzwords. Like the more they said it, the more real it became.
One of the central red pill tenets is that women are hypergamous, which means they seek to partner with someone that is their social, economic, and intelligence superior. Whether that's true or not, it doesn't really matter. Wanting is free. Normal people end up with normal people, by and large. Most people are normal people. You might wish you could pair up with Henry Cavill or Angela Scanlon, but you can't. You'll pair up with a normal person. So stop worrying about it, and you don't need to try to be Henry Cavill to have a partner. But just make sure that your girlfriend doesn't actually meet him.
What's the next one? What's the next thing?
Understanding that attraction is not equal. Red pill recognises that not everyone is equally desirable. Outcomes can be uneven, and effort doesn't guarantee results. It's basically part of a broader view that life is unfair, and I think that is a good thing to accept.
This sounds a bit like what the Louisiana guy was talking about. His view was that as a man, you have to try harder to be attractive, or it's black pill is a separate thing, which is all about it's how attractive your face is or something. But he said that for men, you have to create value in the world. For himself, that meant becoming a steel magnate and working on his body and having something that would attract women. But women are born with value in the world, in his view, because women are more conventionally beautiful or something along those lines.
I think there's a truth to that as well, because it's well known that men primarily value, or at least in a partner, the first thing they look for is attractiveness. And I think they weight that more highly than women rate physical attractiveness. Women look at other dimensions for men as well, sort of provider ones and social competence ones. And men do that a little bit, maybe not so much the provider, but, personality and social competence, but they just weight it differently. Like, for instance, a random 40-year-old guy, say, be quite happy to date a 28-year-old attractive woman that works at McDonald's, probably. Just an average dude would be happy to date that woman.
Because what he's looking for in a relationship, presumably, is just attractiveness, possibly birthing years, ability to reproduce.
I mean, that's maybe too shallow. It's maybe underdoing the average man. Do you think there's any truth to this?
That life's unfair and some people are more attractive than others?
Or that this sub-issue of women are born with value, men have to create their value?
No, I've known loads of ugly women.
And did they have any value?
I would almost argue that they have more value than an ugly man, because at least they could still be good for something.
What could they be good for?
Genetically speaking, they can produce offspring. An ugly man who can't partner up with anyone, he might as well just be wanking into a sock his whole life.
And he probably is.
Yeah. Oh, but that actually does make sense from that worldview, in that women are born with value.
What they mean is attractive women are born with value.
That's what you can push as a red pillar, but you can take a anthropological and animalistic view that all women, by that reckoning, are actually born with some form of value in the ability to reproduce the species.
Create and sustain life.
Yeah.
In a way that men can't.
Yeah, well, neither can do the job without the other, but a woman, their part is probably greater in that.
I think what the red pill means is take a 25-year-old woman who is naturally attractive and take a 25-year-old man who's naturally attractive. That woman will have access to higher quality men and proximity to power, proximity to money, have easier access to that than her 25-year-old male equivalent. Sure, he might be nice to look at, but he can't parlay his good looks into lifestyle upgrades in the same way she can. If this good-looking guy works at McDonald's, he's not going to be as interesting to women as if he is a doctor, because being a doctor shows competence, it has social status, it has an income. All of these things are better than if he works at McDonald's. He could be the same fundamental dude underneath it all, look the same, have the same, personality, but one is a lot more attractive to women than the other. And he had to earn being a doctor, whereas this 25-year-old attractive woman just had to look after herself. And I think that's what they're trying to say in Women Are Born with Value. Men have to earn it.
What's the next tenet you agree with? What's your 5-step plan to get into red pill communities?
Boundary setting. Don't tolerate behavior you don't want. So that includes not tolerating manipulation, disrespect, and constant testing.
Is that a red pill view?
Maybe not in so many words.
I strongly object to some of the stuff that they were saying in there, that you can easily find men in that sphere that are saying the whole no doesn't mean no when it comes to women thing. Which is a wildly dangerous thing to be telling young men.
This means boundary setting for yourself and enforcing your boundaries, not necessarily listening to someone else's.
How one-sided. Excellent.
It is rather.
So not going to agree with that one. I mean, no, it's good to have boundaries, but you have to respect boundaries as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And, I've got into trouble before by not setting sufficiently firm boundaries, so that one makes sense to me. Oh, last one. Focus on observable behavior, not stated preferences. So watch what people do and what they respond to, not what they say they want and say they respond to. This is classic. This is a long-known difference in stated preference and revealed preference. In particular, I think this applies to what women say they want in a man versus what they actually respond to in a man.
I think that's a core point that they harped on pretty hard and pretty early in the documentary as well. They like to do this whole you think you can just be a nice guy, but if you go up to a woman at a party and you just start talking about your feelings and crying on her shoulder, she's going to say, what a pussy, I don't want that guy, I want someone strong.
I think in particular, they were commenting that women say they want a man who's emotionally open and emotionally available and is in touch with his feelings and is sensitive and can cry in front of her. But in reality, if a man does that too much, or some people would say at all, then she's disgusted by him and clearly doesn't actually want this. Probably what she really wants is a man who's emotionally intelligent and not utterly guarded, but without being hopeless.
This is where they're confusing two things. I think you're right, is what my guess would be is that women actually desire, when the stereotype is, I want a man who is in touch with his feelings. It's not a man who therefore has no control over them and pisses and cries himself every 5 minutes. You want someone with emotional intelligence that understands that in certain settings, you are the strong one in a relationship and someone holds up the other when they've had a bad. But equally, they don't bottle up their frustrations and come home and beat you because Frank at the factory takes home more than he does. You come home and you have an emotionally mature discussion about it and say, I'm really frustrated for this thing. Thank you for listening to me. It's not the same as being a crybaby.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. And I think there's a feeling that society is pushing men to abandon certain masculine stereotypes, certain masculine traits, and behave more like women. There's a feeling there. And the red pill counterview is women don't want to be attracted to men acting like women. Women are attracted to men that act like men.
I did wonder about the women that are in the red pill sphere. Do you know much about this at all? What's your view on, girls that kind of go along with it? That because there's some that are looking for a trad wife role, or are there some that are just looking for a provider or a sugar daddy, like the ones that you mentioned who know what they're getting into with these rich douchebags? They know that they're in it for the ride. In fact, it's even in that doc. One of the first things they ask the girlfriend that's sitting around HS Tiki-Toki's apartment thing is, what's you like about me the most? Your money. Lol, stupid bitch. That kind of reaction is what it gets.
She was honest.
But exactly. That's the only reason she's there, is because he's going to put her on the internet. But that's because he's a fucking bellend. It's not because this is what all women want. The two things are not the same.
At the more acceptable end, if you've got him at one end being Mr. Content's utter moron saying vile shit, and at the slightly more acceptable end of red pill, you've got, let's say, someone who's rich and well off and his wife stays at home and looks after the kids and looks after the house, does the cooking, the cleaning, all that kind of stuff. He goes out, earns the dough, and they have this traditional relationship dynamic. Trad wife, he's the breadwinner, and that's kind of how it was in the 50s. Much harder to do now. But yeah, I think there's plenty of women that are happy with that situation, that want that situation. Maybe don't like being financially dependent on a man, but that's where marriage comes in. If you're going to give up your own form of income, I think marriage is a sensible insurance net for that.
Woody, did you come across Pearl Davis?
Yes.
Hannah Pearl Davis, Just Pearly Things is her online handle. She comes up in red pill discussions quite a bit, and I don't know if she's not really red pillar, she's more like an anti-feminist, and she talks about men's rights.
Oh, she's a red pillar. She's deep in the red pill.
But I think again, it's attention grabbing and saying things to deliberately be a cunt, quite frankly.
You've got to separate the people that live this and then the content creators that promote this. So she's a content creator.
Well, all the examples we can hold up are content creators, unless I go and find one and drag them in off the street.
That's a very good point, because that distorts things. And there are people out, the philosophy is not intrinsically an online related thing. That's just how people perceive it and consume it.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think this is mostly it was born out of being online. I think even one of the YouTubers I was looking at, Ty's Corner, on his video, Red Pill is finally dead. He reckons it only appeals to certain men who are chronically online, which many people are now. They've got this kind of social media and decision fatigue almost when it comes to how swipeable dating is now, the gamification of it. And Red Pill is a sort of an outlet for their depression and rage in a modern online world.
This is a very good point, because the dark female nature that Red Pill describes, and like in FDS, what kind of woman would be an FDS believer versus the women we know in real life, quite different. Turns out most women I know are normal and aren't power-hungry maniacs.
Aren't raging manipulators.
They are out there, those people, but that's not a uniquely female thing. What, you think there's no manipulative men?
That's exactly what all of these guys are talking about.
Yeah, well, men are fucking saints or cucks, right?
But what you're saying about these guys are out there on the street, it's not just the content creators, the movement is actual people. You saw a bit of that in the videos as well, and it kind of goes back to a little bit ASMR, a little bit mukbang. They are forming, because it's all about content creators, that's how it's getting pushed. They are all doing the same thing, which is trying to form parasocial relationships with the people that follow them, and therefore just walking down the street where he knows he's going to be recognized and, shaking the hand of a few of these dweebs who think he's cool is doing massive good for his rep and those parasocial relationships that he's fostering, because he's like, hey man, I appreciate you, thanks very much. And they feel like they've made a personal connection with him. They're more likely to go and continue consuming his content and buying whatever shit that he's flogging, because it's a red pill mentality that these guys are pushing. But what they're actually doing is just selling something behind the scenes. It's all a grift almost.
Grifting is a huge part of it on the content creation side. Buy my course, invest in my crypto coin.
Yep. I don't know. It's difficult to separate those two things, because, as we said, the Manosphere is articles and blogs and influencers and content creators. That's how this stuff is getting pushed.
It's not like the 10 Commandments that are chiseled into a slate somewhere. It's an amorphous, interconnected web of sometimes conflicting beliefs, and it's hard to define exactly what these things are.
And because of that, it's also whack-a-mole with trying to swat out one particularly problematic person or ideology or theme within it, because it will shift and change and it will be onto something else before you even taken the clips down.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the questions I had originally is like, who's falling for this? Who's falling for this red pill view of the world and what these guys as influencers is pushing? But it kind of seems like it's just influential, younger mostly, maybe some older men.
You mean easily influenced?
Influenceable, easily influenced.
Impressionable.
But they think these guys genuinely are going to give them something, and they believe this whole, I've got the cheat codes for life, look at my 6 Lamborghinis, look at my bank balance, bro, I'm showing you my actual bank balance on my phone.
Something that's quite telling is, like that HS Tiki-Toki guy, the stuff you were saying is like, no, I wouldn't say it in front of my mum, I'd get a slap.
Yeah.
He knows it's bad.
He had, the interview with him and his mum was weird as well.
Oh, yeah.
So once you get into his little content stuff and you start following him or whatever, it's links out to Telegram, which is like one of the dodgier social media sites, right? That's the Russian pushed one.
I don't know much about Telegram.
They're all banned from X or Twitter or something. So all the weirdos go onto Telegram. So you follow him on there for the, the real stuff. And then you're pushed these OnlyFans.
Oh, like videos of him fucking some girl in a toilet.
Yep. X-rated women that he's helping set up, his trading and financial advice that you can subscribe to. All of that is once you get behind the scenes and behind some paywalls. And then he straight away, in the next breath, admits that his mum would hate everything that he's just said.
And he owns a production company that creates and curates OnlyFans girls' content, but he also says they're disgusting.
Yeah, he says that it's disgusting, porn is loser shit, and that if any of his daughters were to ever be on OnlyFans, he would disown them, and if he ever had a gay son, he would disown them. And that's when he says that, my mum would hate everything I just said.
But he's not homophobic.
Because he's got a gay mate.
I don't even know if I want to touch it, but what came across in the documentary as well was there's like a lot of anti-Semitism mixed up in it too.
I think that was where it was getting towards the end, that even this one, Sneeko?
He's a fucking lunatic.
He was banned from like everything. I think he's now back on one of them, YouTube, let's say. So he was a big MAGA hate speech streaming, full-on nasty piece of shit. He has now converted to Islam. He's pushing a spirituality side of things.
I don't think MAGA's going to like that very much. That's probably the end of Sneeko's political career.
He thinks Satanists are coming to take over and create a one world government, and that it's in all the media and all the models on the front of magazines.
He's a lunatic. He's drunk his own Kool-Aid.
I think it's just pivoting, The red pill thing was okay for a while. Then when his channels get shut down, they lean harder into something else, which is the conspiracy theory stuff.
Maybe he doesn't believe any of this. It's just selling his videos.
So he's gone down the anti-Semitic route as well. Like the Jews are in charge of it. There's hate just tiki-toki. He's like, who's in charge? Well, like the Jews or something. They don't have a fucking clue what they're saying. It's just what is so shocking.
They know people will react to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they are proper scumbags. Shall we have a look at red pill claim versus mainstream claim versus reality? Some of this was quite interesting.
All right, hit me with what you got.
Red pill claim. Women are primarily attracted to status, looks and power. Mainstream claim. Attraction is about personality, kindness and compatibility.
Have we gone back to which side of this do you think is true? Because there can only be one.
Or there can be a middle ground, or neither.
So red pill view is that women just want stuff out of you and you have to be hot.
Primarily attracted to status, looks and power, which ignores personality, kindness and compatibility, or at least weights it low.
I only did any of my dating when I had none of those things. And I'm happily married, so maybe exception that proves the rule. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think I'm in much danger of acquiring status, looks or power, so...
Acquiring them? Look at this bag of looks I came across on the street.
Found it.
That was handy.
Found a fiver. Yeah, I think the truth is a conglomeration of both those views. I think attraction is a multi-factor thing. Looks and status and personality and context. Context is very important, but there is some truth to both.
But you can't. There's no one size fits all for attractiveness.
Yeah, thank God.
That you can't say women like this, but not that. They're not an amorphous, replicated clone.
It's true. That's a fundamental failure of the red pill. Actually, is it simplifies. It treats women as a monolith. It's like, yeah, there are actually women that fit these descriptions that you've got, but it's not all women, and you've got no idea how many it is. But they just lump them all together because it's grey areas are too cognitively hard for people to understand in our fucking bite-sized attention economy. It makes my brain hurt thinking about grey areas. I just want things to be simple.
All of these are shortcuts. That's why it appeals to people. It's a lazy narrative, as someone said, that it plays on people's fears and angers. This one was a good one from a short that The Guardian published by some dude who's now out of red pilling, but he was in it for a while. He said that it gives you some kind of comfort to give up the blame on yourself when you've been feeling kind of shit about dating or stuff. He said, and blame someone else. Women are in control and you're the victim. It's like, oh, okay, it's not my fault. You suddenly feel like you're relieved. That's when this whole the scales fell from my eyes thing happens. That's why they call it red pill. I think it's all of that changing your perception. But you've also then accepted, there's someone I can blame for this, not myself.
And that's a great feeling that you can escape responsibility, which goes against the previous one of take personal responsibility. So I don't know. It's difficult to square those circles. Talking about dating.
Are we still doing red pill versus blue pill?
Yeah. Red pill view. Women have overwhelming power. Mainstream view. Dating is equal and fair. So we touched on this a little bit in our dating app culture and catfishing episode. In fact, we touched on this a lot. We did a lot of touching.
So much touching and dating. I can't really comment on this. I don't have any view or experience on it.
Cool, I'll comment on it. Women have overwhelming power at the beginning of a romantic interaction in the selection part, but that shifts towards men as time goes on. But it's particularly in favour of those who are the most attractive, which of course it would be.
Is this just in the dating apps? And is that just how people see dating now? This only refers to dating apps and dating services, not meeting people in an outside, non-online way.
I think it's both.
Maybe it's always been that, right? So if we take the only model I understand from watching the television, watching the televisual entertainments.
Mm-hmm. Recording on VHS.
Of course, or played through a terrestrial service from your aerial, then if you were a person seeking another person to have a romantic engagement with, you would go to your local drinking establishment, be that coffee or alcohol, and you would probably look for someone that you find physically attractive. Therefore, the physically attractive have the immediate advantage, and women are, more often than not, the ones that are the attractive person in the relationship, or what men look for is attractiveness first.
Would you like to restate that?
No, don't even know what I was trying to say.
We've covered this very well in our episode on dating, so have a look at that. Episode number
10.
Cool. Next we have sexual morality. This is a classic red pill talking point. What's your bodies? What's the number of bodies? What's your body count? How many bodies have you got?
Body count. Yeah, I heard them saying that.
Yeah.
That's how many people you have sexed.
You have sexed up. That's right.
You did the sex at.
So the red pill view says promiscuity harms women more than men. And the mainstream view is sexual freedom is equal for both sexes.
Sexual promiscuity harms women more than men.
Mm-hmm.
That actually sounds like a positive standpoint from the red pill, but also completely at odds with them going out and trying to sleep with as many people as possible.
Yeah, well, it depends what your view on promiscuity is. What they're saying is women shouldn't have sex with lots of people. I want women to have had sex with, ideally no one, but very few. But it's okay for me to go out and do it because it doesn't harm me because I'm a man, but it harms you, woman.
I think that does anyone want to be with a walking disease factory?
That's a good question.
That goes around whoring all over town.
But having sex with lots of people doesn't mean that you're going to be disease riddled.
It just gives you a greater chance of it.
Yeah, you get better from diseases though if you do catch them.
You get stronger.
Stronger. What doesn't kill you?
I'm now immune to herpes.
But yeah, the red pill is absolutely adamant that sleeping around is morally bad for women and also has all kinds of psychological effects. It damages their ability to pair bond in a way it doesn't to men.
Oh, is that bizarre thing they were trying to say was a fact? That they got someone who claimed to be a neuroscientist saying that the more people a woman slept with, then the more of their DNA she had basically absorbed or something?
Oh yeah, that's fucking nonsense.
Yeah. And the more likely your child is to look like one of her exes because she's going to have old bits of DNA just kicking about.
That's insane. That's insane.
It's just absolute rubbish.
Which one of those clowns was saying that?
I think it was the HS Tiki Toki. When he had linked to someone that claimed to be a neuroscientist or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's insanity. That's completely ridiculous. I have some stats. Glad you asked. I looked this up once and for all by finding one paper called The Effects of Premarital Sexual Promiscuity on Subsequent Marital Sexual Satisfaction by Brigham Young University.
By the Mormons. The guys who promote for having multiple wives. Yeah, good. This will be unbiased.
I didn't know it was a Mormon university. Oh well. 2004 by Sherry Christensen. So the findings of this were that there's a negative correlation with satisfaction. So satisfaction being your sexual satisfaction with your marital partner. The study found a significant negative relationship between premarital sexual promiscuity and subsequent marital sexual satisfaction. Individuals with more premarital partners reported lower levels of satisfaction in their marriage. And the key point in this was that there are basically men and women suffered similarly. And if anything, men suffered more adversely, as in promiscuity had more damaging effects on men on their long-term ability to be sexually satisfied in a marital couple. And it also showed that if you had one sexual partner, which was your husband or wife, you were the most satisfied. Probably, I suspect, because you don't know what you're missing. But nonetheless, the feeling of satisfaction was reported to be highest.
That's interesting, because I don't know that you can really say that satisfaction is an objective and markable thing between people. Like, how do you know that that person is more satisfied than the other one?
Well, it's subjective, isn't it? And if you don't know what you're missing, you might be like, yeah, this is great.
That study in itself has probably got a lot to unpack there, especially from the fact that it's from the Mormon University of multi-wife.
But yeah, that's one piece of scientific evidence anyway, at least saying that actually it's bad for everyone. Then again, it is the Mormon University. I wish I'd found a better source now.
It's all right. You want to know.
Well, it just goes to show proper research would have validated their sources better. But anyway, I suspect promiscuity is probably bad for everyone, not women especially. It's just a convenient red pill narrative to say, oh, I can sleep with lots of people because that's what I want to do, but you can't because I don't want you to.
That sounds in line with what they were saying, but it sounds like the truth is not really in their favor. Everyone suffers.
Yeah, I think so.
Being a big slut's gross for men and women or something.
Yeah. Interestingly, your marital satisfaction in that study fell off a cliff if you had more than about 5 premarital partners.
Okay.
A very common red pill analogy about promiscuity and women. It says, a key that opens many locks is valuable, and a lock that's opened by many keys is defective. It's a shitty lock. Therefore...
Sounds a bit too smart to be red pill content.
It's not smart. Men aren't fucking keys and women aren't locks.
It's making a metaphor is considered smart, no?
A key can be slightly like a penis and a lock can be slightly like a vag. But that's about where the similarity ends.
Whoa, where are you getting that from? God, your penis is on the brain, seeing them everywhere.
Yeah, what a crazy idea. And it makes an intuitive, emotional kind of sense. It's like, oh yeah, that is a shitty lock. Huh, I guess women are evil.
It just equates one thing to the other.
But yeah, it's a stupid analogy because we're not keys and women aren't locks. It's ridiculous.
Nothing makes sense when you analyze it, Joe. That's not what being an online content creator is about. As one, you should know.
Oh God, we need to be more reactionary.
What?
So, on the topic of masculinity, Red Pill says traditional masculinity is correct and necessary, and mainstream view is traditional masculinity is often harmful.
Is that the mainstream view?
It's the progressive view.
The question is, which is right? Which is correct?
Yeah, what do you think the reality is?
What do I think the reality is of traditional masculinity? So that would be hunting, fighting, shooting, football,
rootin',
arm
tootin'.
wrestles. Grr, I'm a big hairy man.
Strength and competence and aggression and dominance and assertiveness.
I think you need to crack a half off of each of those pills and swallow that, because there is a lot that puts me off even wanting to be friends with a man if they're overly macho, masculine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything's a competition. Everything has to be about sports. How much do you lift, bro? Like, there's nothing for me to talk to you about. You're boring.
Yeah.
You're basic.
Yeah.
And I also don't want to talk to someone who is completely, I don't know, lazy and slovenly and doesn't want to look after themselves at all and only has interests in watching Sex in the City and drinking Cosmos. I don't know.
Being a soy boy.
I don't think that's even a soy boy. That's just being some kind of flesh blob. Basically, you need to be a balanced individual human being.
What? That's a crazy idea.
Yeah. It's going to come back to that. Think for your fucking self again and again.
Yeah, I agree. Things taken to the extremes are rarely good. Aggression has a place, dominance has a place, and taken too far, it's a bad thing. But, aggression in terms of protecting yourself and protecting your family, that's a great thing. Assertiveness in the workplace can be a good thing, or anywhere, but take it to extremes and aggression turns into, violence, and assertiveness turns into bullheadedness.
Mm-hmm.
And these aren't good things anymore.
There are situations in your everyday life where you have to be assertive, otherwise you won't get anywhere. People will walk over you if you're a pushover, but that doesn't mean you need to be hyper aggressive and grab someone by the throat because you want to return that blender that you bought that doesn't work properly.
Or threaten to crush their larynx because they said some words you didn't like.
Exactly. What monster would do such a thing? It's all in balance.
All in balance. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the context, all of these views are coming from someone that's probably not particularly traditionally masculine.
I do fucking hate the term toxic masculinity. I think it's just a catch-all to not engage with the conversation.
That's just a massive deflector and a way to say, I'm going to shut you down because you have to listen to this because I'm calling you toxic and masculine.
Yeah, exactly.
So, why is this appealing as an ideology to men? Or what kind of men is it appealing to?
Do men just naturally hate women?
I mean, all the ones that are pushing this in the doc are saying like, well, I don't hate women. I love women, love them a bit too much. Whoa! Yeah, so riddle me this, Joseph.
I think it's too simple an explanation. I don't think men intrinsically hate women, and therefore this has been created by that.
No. But why are men into red pill ideology in general? It's not all just about hating women, right?
My theory is that media messaging and our culture at the moment is not necessarily male hostile, although I do think some parts of it are. It's quite pro-woman. That's the fashionable thing. And there's loads of programs for female empowerment and female outreach. And I think men are guilted to a degree for being men. And I think it filters through to young boys. And there's very little positive messaging out there for boys and masculinity. And these guys who are in the red pill manosphere, they're the only people out there saying positive things about men, or at least they're the only people with platforms saying positive things about men and masculinity. And I think young men in particular gravitate towards it automatically because it's somewhere that's not hostile to them. And if they said, men are great, masculinity is great, it's okay to be a man, and our core belief is that we eat bananas every day, then I think you'd have legions of young men eating bananas every day because they just say their vehicle for that message is, also relationships are extremely transactional and there's this dark female nature that you've got to be aware of and don't treat them well. Or I suppose it wouldn't say don't treat them well, but treat them under these specific rules, don't treat them as equals, etc., etc. Then young men internalize that message because it's packaged with the sweet filling of, you're not a worthless piece of shit, young man, I care about you in some way. And I think basically that's what it boils down to. A neglect of young men allows this to thrive.
I wonder if it's almost a bit like the dreaded racism question in the US, and this more female-focused narrative in popular culture, in our workplace culture, in media culture, is like a apologist guilt-tripping for women not having any kind of equal rights for hundreds of years up to this point. And now it's this overcompensation of pushing the needle too far the other way. And red pill is a result of people getting sick of that narrative and wanting to push back against it. But everything's being done to extremes and people are not being rational. Rather than saying, let's, things in the past were shitty, can we put things on an equal footing? No, that's the message maybe being driven by the quote-unquote gynocentric mainstream media that these guys are claiming to not be part of. But neither side are really taking an actual balanced view and saying, can we do it day zero and just treat each other like other people? It has to be this side needs to be held up more than this side to make up for something.
And social media compounds the problem because it rewards extreme views. Nuance doesn't get clicks. Nuance doesn't sell ads. So, of course, the stuff we see is increasingly polarized and it's harder to have a sensible middle ground if you can't think for yourself, which most people can't because most people are dumb. And social media is just pouring gasoline on this fire.
Because people are plugged in all the time, they're all consuming, they're swiping through things, they're just ingesting constantly. And these things that grab attention are the ones that are shocking. So you make something more shocking so you get more attention, like going and beating up someone in the street right at the end of that documentary, or them doing these supposed sting operations on pedos. It's nothing to do with red pill culture, but they're doing it because it's controversial and getting people to click onto it. And the same goes the other way with, the anti-feminist Pearl Davis. All her things are just wildly clickbaity, inflammatory, saying something for the sake of getting attention things.
Distilling entire social issues into a one-sentence, bite-sized chunk for social media.
I think one of the people talking about red pill, this was on the guy who had been in red pill, had left it and was trying to, just post on sites and forums and tell people that, there is a better way, i.e. think for yourself. He said that most of these content creators don't actually believe what they say anyway. It's just for the views. And as we said earlier, it's for the sake of them selling stuff because that's what the views are for.
Because what they care about is money.
Push their products on someone.
Something I like about our podcast is I think we strive to be a podcast of nuance.
The haters and commenters would say otherwise.
Well, fuck them.
Yeah. I switched off as soon as you said cock ring. All right, mate. This is the joke.
Really? That's just when it got good.
That's the first 30 seconds.
But yeah, I think nuance is more important than ever. And I like exploring that in these episodes.
So that's why you think men are interested in this. What do you think? Usually we ask, what's the dark side of this? Is there a dark side to it? And really, all of this stuff we've been saying has been pretty much not as hating on it, but saying that this is a fairly dark mindset to be in if you're blaming other people for your shortcomings and willing to take the extreme end of the views that you should treat women like dogs, as one of the quotes is somewhere. What's the light side? What positives could you take out of any of this, if there is one?
I think what I said earlier about taking personal responsibility for your life, about improving yourself, not just being passive and hoping things will pan out, and accepting that the world's unfair. It's not nice. It doesn't fit a nice, neat ideal, but ultimately it will help you thrive in the world and get what you want. I don't think they execute it, but the idea that you should accept an uncomfortable truth is good. I think a lot of the things they think are truths and say are truths are not true at all. But that idea of take a good hard look at yourself, a good hard look at the world, and decide what's true and believe it, even if it's uncomfortable, maybe especially if it's uncomfortable, and act accordingly, that's going to lead you to a better outcome at the end of it. Notice that none of that has anything to do with treating women a particular way.
Which is often what it boils down to.
Yeah, it's inextricably linked to that. You can't separate it. Other than the fact I separated it just then, those are the good bits. But the way it's all packaged, it's just... Because, it basically revolves, even the financial stuff, the go to the gym stuff, basically what it all boils down to is how to make yourself more attractive to women.
That's them giving you a motivation and a reason to do those things. Oh, don't you want to be rich, bro? Don't you want this car, bro? Yeah, you do.
They pretend it's not about women, but it is.
And also, why do you need a Lamborghini? Those guys don't even own them. They rent them to look flash, but it's beside the point.
Yeah. What do you think then? What do you think? Are there any positives that you would take from this?
No, I actually don't. I don't think there's any positives to be had from this, because what you're trying to find positives in something that isn't a positive culture. I think the idea of opening yourself up to an uncomfortable truth, the concept or the definition of red pilling something or someone is fine and appealing, and that would show a level of personal development and insight in that you're okay, I'm not going to bury my head in the sand anymore. I'm going to confront what the truth is. But that's not what red pill culture is, because what they say is the truth is this whole wrapped up in gender politics, pushback, inequality, mess. So I like the idea of there being a red pill to take, but this isn't it.
This is not the one.
No.
There's a philosophy called purple pill, but it's just getting a bit stupid now, which claims to be mixing red and blue, but I can't be bothered.
No. I think what we've got here is brown pill, because you're just eating captures of shit.
A
couple of big questions.
Would
you be into it?
You think I am into it?
I mock you for it on these, because it's funny to do. It amuses me to be horrible to you sometimes about this particular thing.
It does wind me up ever so slightly.
I know, I can see it in your eyes. I know that when we're actually in person, when you punch me in the arm playfully, it's going to be that bit harder because of all of these little jokes. No, but I don't think that any of this really is what you hold true. It's all just discussion points. And my view is that I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot barge pole. It's not for me. I don't think any of it makes sense. It's because it's
you don't
not
need it
true.
In your life.
It's not true to my experience of the world. So they're saying this is the truth. You need to open up to it. I'm like, but that's not the truth to me. And I haven't seen anything like any of what you're discussing. And I don't think you have the cheat codes for life, because fuck you. And I don't think that you are a red pill. I don't think that you've gone down I think you went down the red pill rabbit hole, not in your own ideology, but just to explore it because it's a fascinating side of people being fucking mental. So that's my view on it for me. And also, just to clarify, my view on it for you.
I'm somewhat relieved. But yeah, I think it gets some things right. I think it probably gets more wrong than it gets right.
Got him. See, he said it. I made him put his guard down by saying I don't think he is, and he's in it. Commandant of the red pill. Red Joe. Oh wait, there was one of those already.
Red Joe. But yeah, I think if you've got the brains to take the good lessons from it and carefully, with a scalpel, excise all of the cancerous bits, then there's some useful stuff here. I think use it as a tool, use it to understand attraction better, and use it to improve yourself, but don't get swept up in 80 to 90% of it.
That would be like, maybe the fitness regime of one of these bros might lead you to bigger gains in the gym, and that's about the only positive you can take out of it.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Carve it out. Carve out the bits that are useful.
Yeah.
That might be a useful bit of content.
Yeah, carve out the bits which are useful. And you shouldn't get your life philosophy from social media influencers anyway, because they're so incentivized for things which are against your interests that you can't really trust what they're saying. I mean, I guess there's exceptions to that, but the richer and more powerful someone is, the more you have to scrutinize what they're telling you, because the more they stand to gain from it.
I think the quote fits in sort of nicely here from, he was quoting someone else, but it was Art Chad in his Gen Z Men Will Be Destroyed by the Red Pill video. You should abandon ideology because the truth will set you free. And Red Pill is an ideology. So people that just want to buy into it and say, oh, I'm a Red Pill guy and this is what us Red Pillers think, and follow it because it's something to attach yourself to. In fact, he even kind of mentioned that it's filling a God void by giving them a moment to point to and go, oh, before I was Red Pill, then I was weak and I hadn't seen this. But you should ignore any kind of ideology and just basically think for your fucking self again.
We've said that before. I think it's a good message. Find the nuance, think for yourself.
Just critically analyze what you are being presented with, always.
And you should do that to us as well. You'll find that we're completely correct, of course.
Any rational, critical thinking would.
Yeah, if you don't think we're correct, then you're dumb.
Yeah, buy Joe Coin. Idiot. The other key question, the massive overhanging question.
The question on everyone's lips.
That everyone's been waiting an hour and a half to find the answer to.
Well, I don't even want to say it.
What's to say it?
Is it sexual? Is it sexual?
Is it sexual?
Primarily, yes. It's about attracting women. It's about having relationships with women. It's about having sex with women. They might pretend it's about financial improvement. There's a whole movement called MGTOW, men going their own way, which forsake women entirely, which I suppose you would be hard pressed to say is sexually motivated, but that's a whole separate thing.
If they're rejecting women entirely, they're having some different kind of sex. Hey, boys.
Cheeky old Dutch rudder down the prison.
Could be. Yeah, I think it's a sexually motivated subculture, and you don't even have to scratch the surface too far to find sexual content within it, especially from the people that are touting it, because they want you to buy into it. And angry men, you can give a platform to and give an enemy to, are one thing. But horny men, you can also get to take their credit cards out and buy your shit.
Angry, horny, sexless men, very easily manipulated.
Exactly. So definitely there is a sexual component.
Has your opinion changed?
What did I learn? Or what are my opinions after it, I guess? I think the guys that we saw on the documentary, I keep coming back to it, these are the types of guys who would have been the bullies in school, I think. Or they have bully characteristics, or the kind of things that I would imagine are school bullies, the kind that I grew up around. They are the people touting this mentality, and who they're trying to attract are like-minded, are emotionally stunted. They are unintelligent, no matter what it says that they think and what they all follow my amazing trading advice. These guys are dum-dums in some ways. They don't understand that insulting people and being tough are not going to get you the same thing that you think it is as being respected and liked. You know, the guy that was going like, gay, oh, Louis likes Jimmy Savile, and all that kind of shit. It's pathetic schoolboy nonsense, and that's his content. That's his clout, mate.
I do think they understand what sells content, but yeah, like those gay comments or other stupid like owned Louis comments, anyone with a brain over the age of 13 would just think, you are a real loser. You're just losing respect in my eyes because you can't engage in a sensible discussion. I thought that, pathetic.
The narrative drivers are mostly grifters. I mean, the only people that are making red pill content are trying to sell you something.
I think they're quite insecure as well. They claim to be the absolute opposite. Rock solid, super confident, super alpha, very assertive, sure of everything. But actually, I think they're insecure in some way.
Massively. Any of them that have been, like, the ones that get called out on there, they do exactly the same kind of thing that bullies do in a schoolyard, which is they got loud and shouty at him, or they got super cagey if they didn't think they could punch him on film, so they were like, okay, I'm not talking to him anymore. Or some of the interviews that you can see other guys doing where someone asks him about his wife, or about was he Fresh and Fit guy, when they asked about his girlfriend.
They get defensive real quick.
Yeah. It's not even, I'm going to be able to prove you wrong, you dumb bitch. It suddenly turns into, oh, fuck off, you're a dyke, you're a mufflicker, you don't know anything, you've got to... And they just get raged up really fast because they're not intelligent people.
And they never publish the clips that make them look stupid.
Oh, they do.
Well, they think
well.
they don't. There's some stuff that they you know what I mean? It's a curated presence. So anyone that makes a good point against them, they just don't publish that. And it just gives this impression that they're always owning people.
I mean, I had this whole little bit, I was thinking about, are there credible links between these influencers and someone actually controlling them? You know, are they being puppeted by someone else and too stupid to know it? Someone like, I don't know, organized Russian hackers, because they're trying to game the financial system that already stinks of a pyramid scheme, and they use these multi-level marketing tactics, i.e., oh, you need to get 2 people to subscribe to you, and then you're in their downstream and you make money off them, and they're sitting at the top of this pyramid. You know, there's always going to be someone above them. There are some interesting theories around that. There's a piece from the university here, actually, Massachusetts University, and it's titled Red Square to Red Pill, Russian Narratives in Reddit's Manosphere Communities. And there's a published work about how the Russians are using their chatbots or whatever to influence Manosphere stuff.
It's a Russian psyop to fracture Western society.
There's some theories around that.
It's not crazy. And there's probably Russian bots working on the other side of the culture war, firing up all the feminists as well.
Yeah,
I mean that, genuinely. This is exactly the sort of stuff Russia does.
They'll just be playing all sides, you know, and stuff that has nothing to do with it. They'll be balls deep in it.
Do you know there's an estimate now that more than 50% of internet traffic is bots?
I know I am.
Me too. Very convincing, though.
AI slop. I'll show you AI slop. It's me.
I'm actually just a ChatGPT front end.
They're hustler platforms. You know, the fact that they're always trying to sell you a service. Most of them are pushing educational platforms, like Andrew Tate's Hustler University, literally
it's
called
in the
Hustler
title.
University.
It's in the title, you fucking mugs. Don't buy it.
Well, the other one that one of them was talking about on the documentary, which is also linked to the Tate's, Real World University, the real world.
Real world.
And all of that uses multi-level marketing structures. These are built by developers and marketing strategists who are just going to use these idiots to then take a cut from that. And that HS guy takes a cut of all the people that are subscribing to him and his financial thing. So it was on there as well, when they lose money, like when you put in £500, Louis Theroux had £100 left after a few days, few weeks, whatever, that guy's still getting paid. You know, you're just paying him. I found that they use the same tactics as crypto pump and dump groups, i.e. you make up, a crypto developer comes along with a coin of some sort that has a value or doesn't. Often they don't even have blockchains associated to them. These guys shill them to their fans, followers, blah, 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 limited runs, and then that just disappears into the ether. They're left holding nothing.
The value goes up briefly, and then the creators sell their share whilst the chumps buy more of it. They cash out, and then it crashes once the hype wears off, and it's just a wealth transfer scheme.
Or it was never backed by anything. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, that's crypto. Crypto's not backed by anything anyway. It's nonsense. Doesn't mean people haven't made money out of it, but it is essentially just vaporware.
Yeah, it's people making money off of other people that they're not making it out of anything else.
Yeah, didn't Trump have a crypto coin?
And his wife.
Yeah, and they made millions out of it.
Probably.
Off fucking MAGA idiots.
I guess closing thoughts on, that's almost like a rabbit hole of conspiracy theory inside Red Pill itself. But I guess at the end of watching that documentary that led us towards this, I was kind of genuinely worried and a bit scared that this aggressive, angry, clearly delusional concept was lurking around and, as it was saying, like gaining traction. But then that's exactly what this fucking lefty liberal documentarian is trying to tell you. But it did feel, when you're seeing the clips of these guys, the language they were using, and then the videos towards the end of them like beating someone up in the street. It was very, very schoolboy-esque. I was like, oh, fucking hell. I sent you the message as well, like it's just new Nazis.
They're mentally stunted, underdeveloped.
They've got culty hallmarks. They've got platforms to find people that will listen to them. They do things like they've got a distrust of outsiders. They use specific language, all this, or I've got clout, I'm dropping game or some shit like that. All the same things that...
I'm not a beta cuck.
Yeah.
Or a simp.
All the stuff that cults do. And this us versus them mentality, there's always got to be an enemy. There's always got to be someone coming for you. That and having things in common with the Nazis' early rallying cries of having strong, masculine, physical men. You know, let's not forget that they forced people into the Hitlerjugend, young boys, and made them fight each other because it was going to make them stronger. All of that, it does sound like, oh, fuck, these guys are out there and they're just waiting for someone to properly trigger them. But on reflection and seeing some of the other source materials and people going like, oh, by the way, Red Pill's basically dead at this point. All of the guys that were in it are cashing out or jumping onto the next thing or converting to Islam in some cases. It's not really going anywhere. A bit like FDS, the people that are in it will sooner or later leave when they realize that if you're on the receiving end, you're just being lied to and strung along for cash with advice that doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. Or B, the influencers themselves will dry up because they jump onto the next trend to start milking. So again, the same message over and over again. Just think for yourself.
I think that's a very good summary.
If this shit worked or passed or made any kind of sense in a longer term, maybe even in a shorter term, these guys wouldn't still be around screaming at you and telling you to do this and buy more shit and having to make ever more controversial remarks to get your attention and your clicks.
Happy people don't generate rage content.
If they had the cheat codes for relationships, they're not going to be giving it to you online. Like this guy that makes 30 million, he's not going to tell you, oh, these are the 3 things you need to do and you'll also have 30 million. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think my concluding thoughts would be Red Pill has a very bad reputation and it's mostly well-deserved. And what good there is in it is too inextricably rolled up with the bad to really be of much value to anyone that isn't very savvy. So it's a dangerous and depressing subculture that is basically another symptom of social media ruining everything. And if there is good to be had from it, and I think there is good to be found in it, you've got to do it very carefully and think for yourself. So yeah, consume with caution.
Like having some degree of masculinity and self-reflection and self-determination, these are all good qualities, but that doesn't make them Red Pill exclusive.
It doesn't make what they're packaged up with any better.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That sounds like a sensible conclusion, just about, in a badly worded sentence.
I think so.
And if you want more badly worded sentences from us, you can come and find us on social media, when you can get links to all our previous stuff and also the fresh, hot, tasty takes that get us banned from Reddit, or me banned from Reddit, get kicked off for so many things, just for saying hello.
Goddamn snowflakes.
I know. But follow us on that bullshit anyway, if you use it. You can find us on X at Sub-Subcult Instagram at Sub-Subculture Podcast, and our Reddit page, our Sub-Subculture Podcast, where you won't get banned for coming along and just posting something, assuming that something isn't a picture of your genitals. Leave us a comment, suggestions for future topics. Maybe we'll cover it. Maybe we'll give you some kudos and say, that girl/guy came here and told us to do it. Thanks, person. Thanks, other human.
Nice one, mate. Sorted, yeah. Nice. Fucking bang tidy, son.
Well, thank you. Thanks again. I'm going to make all of that horrible noise disappear.
I do.
It's been eye-opening and slightly painful and slightly worrying. But we got through. Right, let's go before we choke on our own pills and die.
It's been wonderful as always, Andrew.
It's been too real, homie. Yo. Peace. That's for my brothers.